With all but 2 games from Week 12 having been played, it is time to discuss what we saw on Sunday and what we saw from Thanksgiving Day. This week, more so than usual, I thought was a weird week, not just due to COVID restrictions, but with how the games played out. The Raiders beat the Chiefs earlier in the year, but went into Atlanta and lost by 37 points on Sunday. The Tyreek Hill show was in full effect on Sunday in Tampa, and the Broncos didn't have a quarterback to play one of the best teams in the entire NFL. We're going to discuss all of this and more, and as always, the takeaways are in no order of importance. They are in general the biggest takeaways from Week 12. And we're going to briefly discuss the Ravens-Steelers game and what to expect from that on Tuesday night as well towards the end of the video. Now, before we get started, if you guys did not know, I will give away a Saquon Barkley autographed jersey to one subscriber if we hit 18,000 before the new year, and only 43% of you guys, roughly, that watch the videos are actually subscribed to the channel, so that should definitely give you some incentive to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Please like the video while you're at it, as each only take a second to do, and I can't say enough how much I appreciate the support of the channel. Now let's begin. And we're going to start today's video by discussing the Texans and Lions, which of course was played on Thanksgiving Day. The Texans blew out the Lions in front of the nation, and not surprisingly, Matt Patricia was fired on Saturday afternoon. I think we all knew Patricia was going to be fired at season's end at the very latest, but with the embarrassment of his former team, now the Lions of course, happening on Thanksgiving Day, he was asked to clean his desk a few weeks earlier than he was going to. Although the Texans looked like a great team on Thursday, they are not, and there's a reason they are 4-7. Deshaun Watson single-handedly keeps this team from being a 1-15 or 0-16 team, as he finished with 318 yards and 4 touchdowns, and looks like the player we all know he can be. He now has 24 passing touchdowns on the year to just 5 interceptions, and whether he knows this or not, the Lions fan base will be in a weird way forever thankful for him for beating their team so bad they finally fired Fat Matt just 48 hours after their game. The final point of discussion for this is TJ Hockenson has arrived and will be a good tight end in the NFL for some time. There was some question going into this year of how he would be and whether drafting a tight end 8th overall was worth it, and don't get me wrong, that's still a viable question largely due to positional value, but as of now, TJ Hockenson remains one of the more underrated players in the NFL and has arrived at the tight end position. And next we go to Denver to discuss this game and really the situation surrounding it. Going into the game, Denver fans really didn't have much to look forward to, as they were starting Kendall Hilton against a Super Bowl caliber roster. Really, the best they could have hoped for was to catch them by surprise and pray, and them being 15-plus point underdogs really showed that. To no one's surprise, the Saints absolutely killed them, and I don't want to say I have a problem with how this was handled, but I do think it should be addressed. First things first, I realize the NFL teams agreed to, if they have a position group essentially wiped out due to COVID or on the high watch COVID list, everyone else is good, they're still going to play, which obviously is what happened here. But one has to wonder, what happens if this happens to the Chiefs, Packers, Bucks, or Saints in January? If Drew, Taysom, or Jameis can't play the NFC Championship game, assuming they make it that far, and he has earned this nickname, and it's no secret how much I love Patrick Mahomes, but if Boy Wonder is on the COVID list prior to an AFC Championship game between the 15-1 Chiefs and the 15-1 Steelers, and as I preface this topic, I understand rules are rules, but I think it has to be asked, what will be the verdict if that does in fact happen in late January? The uproar Saints fans caused over a blatant missed pass interference call 2 years ago would be nothing if these teams couldn't play with their franchise quarterbacks, and if the Chiefs had to have McCole Hardman be the man under center for the AFC Championship game, and understandably so. I just think Denver got the raw end of a deal, and don't get me wrong, the Saints were going to win anyway, but really the big takeaway is if this happens in a really relevant point of the year, like in the playoffs, then the NFL simply would not allow this to happen. Heading to Indy to discuss the Titans-Colts game, and there is a lot to take away here. Derrick Henry is an animal, as he ran for 178 yards and 3 touchdowns in a huge divisional win Sunday that very well could prove to clinch the AFC South for the Titans. I've said this several times and I'll say it again, but the Titans are for the next few years going to be very tough outings in the playoffs with how their offense is built around Derrick Henry. Players late in the game simply do not want to tackle him, and you really can't blame them for wanting to either, or not wanting to either. Anyway, the Titans went into Indy and won by 3 scores. scores and Derrick Henry was unstoppable. This was a disheartening loss for the Colts as Phillip won't be around for forever, and this team at times this year has looked very good. Now, Super Bowl aspirations definitely weren't a thing for the Colts in the preseason or in August because we didn't have a preseason, but with them sitting at 7-3 heading into Sunday's game, I don't want to say we're realistic mainly due to the Chiefs and Steelers, but a deep postseason run wasn't out of the equation. The Titans, aside from a game in Lambeau Field, have a very favorable schedule and could very well finish the year with a 12-4 record. The Colts still have to play the Steelers, Raiders, and Texans twice, which could see Deshaun Watson play hero ball. Their chances of winning the division and hosting a playoff game took a deep dive after today, and if they do not win the AFC South, then their season is effectively over because they're not winning 3 straight on the road to go to the Super Bowl with a 39-year-old Phillip Rivers. The Titans, on the other hand, are right in the thick of things and could end up hosting a 5 or 6 seed, which could end up being the Browns or even the Colts, and we saw what they did to them today. The Colts beat them by 17 points a few weeks ago, and you never know in the NFL, but what we do know is the Colts' path to a deep postseason run got a whole lot more complicated after a Sunday loss to the Titans. Now heading to Atlanta to discuss the Raiders and Falcons. This was a really weird game as the Raiders are a team that beat the Chiefs earlier in the year but lost on Sunday by 37 points to the Atlanta Falcons. They now sit at 6-5, and with the Browns being 8-3, I think it's more than fair to say Cleveland will go to the playoffs as at minimum a 7 seed. 2 teams in the AFC East are at least 7-4, with the Dolphins being 7-4 and the Bills being 8-3, so there is probably another wildcard spot locked up. This leaves the final spot between the Raiders and Ravens, who will lose to Pittsburgh on Tuesday to battle out the final spot in the AFC. This team at a point in time looked great, and looked like they could very well make some noise in the AFC playoffs, talking about the Raiders of course. They were 6-3 just 9 days ago, and now sit at 6-5 with the Colts and Dolphins remaining on their schedule. The playoffs aren't completely out of the question for them, don't get me wrong, but losing Sunday makes their path to get to the tournament a lot more complicated. This team has beat the Saints, Chiefs, and Browns, with the Saints and Browns being by double digits, but any given Sunday is certainly a thing, and with this loss to the Falcons, I think it's fair to say what type of team the Raiders are. I don't think they're going to be really anything more than a thorn in team sides in the playoffs, and if they're lucky, they may sneak out a playoff win, but they're not going to be serious contenders or anything like that. If, and I always say this for anybody, but if they prove me wrong, then honestly great for them, but in a conference as loaded as the AFC is, it's tough to take a team like the Raiders serious. Losing to the Falcons by 37 points is inexcusable, and I think the maximum reach for this team is a divisional round exit, and even that, at this point in time, may be a bit lofty. Heading to the Chargers game and really what they should do going forward. The Chargers lost for the first time all year by more than 1 score, but what I think the biggest takeaway is I think it's time to move on from head coach Anthony Lynn. The Chargers went 5-11 in 2019 and had 9 1-score losses. So far in 2020, they have a record of 3-8, and as we said yesterday, was the first loss by more than 1 score, so that means they have 7 1-score losses on the year. This is a trend, and despite a 12-4 record from Lynn in 2018, it very well could be time to move on from him. This would be the perfect time to do so due to having Justin Herbert. He is a great quarterback on a very friendly contract for the time being, and this would certainly lure in one of the best coaching candidates in the market. With the Chargers always in games, and having players on the team like Joey Bosa, Derwin James, Melvin Ingram, and everyone else that they have, they are a good roster, but simply haven't produced the results. I don't think Anthony Lynn is a bad coach by any means, but anytime a coach has gone a combined 8-19 in the last year and a half or so, with a roster as talented as the Chargers is, they should be held accountable, and unfortunately in this industry that usually means losing a job. The good news for Chargers fans though is they should be in the market for the best head coach available, and that's largely due to star quarterback Justin Herbert. And the final game to discuss for today's video before the final few takeaways at the end is the Chiefs-Bucs game. The Tyreek Hill show was in full effect on Sunday as he had 13 catches for 269 yards and 3 touchdowns, and I think really the biggest takeaway is it's going to be incredibly hard for anybody to keep up with the Chiefs. They were up 27-10 at a point, and while it is fair to say they do need to close out games better, and really that's just nitpicking, they look like the team that will repeat for the first time in nearly 2 full decades. Yes, the Steelers are going to be hard to beat, but I don't see any way the Chiefs get slowed down in January. Now, for the last few parts of the video, the Ravens-Steelers game is going to be rough, and as I record this, Baltimore's COVID list is seemingly more than a mile long, and really if they keep it within 10 or 15, it's a win for them in itself. The NFL has done everything they can to push this game back, and even push the Ravens' next game back, but really what I think should have been done was a Week 18 for this game. I'm glad as of now at least it will be played, but this was the first time the NFL has really been pushed in terms of the schedule. They were earlier in the year, don't get me wrong, with like the Bills and the Chiefs on Monday night, but that was nowhere close to this. The Vikings miraculously kept their playoff hopes alive with a huge win over the Panthers. Shout out Kirk Cousins for a 300-yard, 3-touchdown game. And also, shout out Chad Beebe for saving his NFL career. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you know how vocal I was about him before that, but shout him out for saving his NFL career. And Browns fans will let me know if I don't say anything about them, so shout out the Browns for taking care of business and starting the year out 8-3, and at this point, it's all but guaranteed they make the playoffs. Chicago is a dumpster fire, and who knows what the future holds for them. Now, with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Please let me know what you think in the comments. If you're still watching this far into the video, I appreciate the time out of your day as I messed up there. But anyway, if you're still watching, make sure to subscribe if you're still here, and I will see you guys next time. Have a great day. Skull Vikes. We're going to the playoffs. I don't care. We're going to the playoffs. Skull Vikes.